Hi, I am Rachel and I am from Parent Sanctuary, and I am a moderator within the Let's Build Our Village. It takes a village to raise a child maternity village. We have been having questions about how to do grown-up things. So we have invited some grown-up people along to help us with our adulting life. So this is kind of like adulting corner, how to be a grown-up, and we're getting guest speakers in to help us manage our life as parents, because when there's just us to consider, it's reasonably easy. We can spend our money on what we want, but when we have growing feet, when we've got people to clothe, when we need to budget for growth spurts and all that food that they start to eat as they turn into school-age children, we need a little bit of help and assistance, because we are not necessarily earning the same as before we had children. We might have been working full-time and then taken a part-time role, and we've still got the mortgage to pay, or we've got the rent to pay, and we've got cars that break down, and we've got washing machines that suddenly stop working in the middle of a nappy wash. You know, we're in probably our most stressful time financially when we've got the small children, because we might be having to pay for nursery fees and not actually recovering the money that we're paying out on nursery fees. So we are really struggling, even though we're not entitled to any help. So I've invited Naz along to see if she can help us with making life easier with our money, and making sure that when we get to retirement age, that we can actually enjoy our time after having struggled all these years with young children. So if you have any questions, please pop your hand up. For our guests in studio, please keep yourself on mute unless you're asking a question. I'm going to try and keep myself muted while Naz is speaking to us, because I've got a little baby who might suddenly start crying. And yeah, I'm going to hand over to Naz. He's not crying, he's bow.
Oh, bless him.
So I'm just
Okay, you just
Naz share her screen.
Hi everybody, I'm Naz. I'm a financial planner, and we're just going to talk about a little bit of financing today. Hopefully it is helpful for you all. But if you have any questions, any concerns, my details are at the end of the slide, so you can get in touch. Remember, there is no cost involved in talking to me. So please, if you have any concerns, any questions, anything at all, any worries, any curiosity, get in touch. It's always better to know where you're standing financially and not knowing. You don't have to necessarily do anything about it. Just be aware of what's going on around you. So I'm just going to share the screen. And there we go. Can you see it, Rach? Okay. All right, just a little disclaimer. I'm an appointed representative of St. James's Place Wealth Management, which is regulated and authorized by Financial Conduct Authority. We need to put that out of the way. So if I move to my family, I've got two girls. Yasmin, the older one, she's in third year uni, at York University. She's doing law. The younger one, Lilia, she's 15. She's at home, homeschooling, and I think you can all relate if you have kids, how it's going. Doesn't matter how old they are, it's always difficult. I've been married for 24 years now, and my husband and I were trying to enjoy the time when we were allowed, when the kids are out or they can manage themselves. We love going for motorbike rides, and yeah, that is our hobby at the moment. So before I started being a financial planner, I was an accountant for 14 years. So I love working with numbers. I love budgeting. I love planning. And yeah, kind of love lecturing as well. What we can, people always ask, why would they come to me? How can I help them? But remember, before you talk to any financial advisor, there are a few things that you can do for yourself to try to not necessarily control or improve, but actually manage your finances. These are easy steps that needs a little bit of dedication and hard work on your side. And I know it's daunting. It's for most people, it's difficult, but it can help a lot. So I've created something that's called 3-step financial fitness. Like any other fitness, you have to put the time, and you have to be persistent, and you have to carry on, and you have to keep on top of it. The first thing that you can do is do an audit. Do an honest audit of your bank statement every month. I know people keep saying, oh, if this month is not a good month, so I'm not going to look at it. Or we always think that if we don't look at our bank statement, somehow it will sort itself out. It doesn't. So check it every month. Notice your incomings and outgoings. Write down the number of online shopping trips you make. Do you feel you're in control of your online spending? Do you see a habit forming? Just look at the patterns. Check for unidentified transactions. These days, they are kind of rare, but they can still happen. So make sure you check those. The other thing that I can suggest is set up a monthly spending budget. Look, I know it's, especially when you have young kids, it's very difficult to stick to it. But even if you don't manage to do it exactly as you set it up, even if you're just around it, somewhere close to it, it's good. It gives you discipline, and it just sets things so you can always check them. The other thing, shop around for cheaper services and alternatives. Please do your research. Be aware that new deals might include a credit check with the provider, but it's always good to check around. Friday, I changed my car insurance. I was with a provider for 3 years, and automatically they renewed it every year. This year, it had doubled. Why? I have no idea. I had no claims. No, nothing. Called them. Yeah, that it is. We've changed our prices. There is nothing we can do for you. Went online, looked around, found it, and I swear it was exactly half the amount that I was supposed to pay. And we can all use a little bit of saving plans at the moment. So please look around, look for cheaper services for your gas, electricity, car insurance, your TV bills, all of that. Try to find something that is more suitable for you. Cancel your unnecessary direct debits. I know you think, oh, if I want to use it again, I have to pay joining fee, but it's going to end up, it's going to be cheaper for you. If you haven't used the facility, if you haven't used the service for more than 3 months, trust me, you're not going to use it again. Cancel it, especially during these times. Just that comes again from checking your bank statement every month. The second step is start building towards an emergency fund. As Rachel said, we all face the car breaks down, the washing machine stops working. We need an emergency fund. It's not something that comes from your income directly. When you have your income every month, if you have it, whether it's reduced or it's full or whatever, you are using that income to pay for your daily outgoings, to manage the house. So with extra things, you have to have a little pot that you can dip into without putting yourself under a strain. So on general, you have to decide on a realistic goal and start putting money towards it. As a rule of thumb, you should try to save up to a maximum of 3 times your total expenditure in a month. And your total expenditure in a month comes from your essentials and your discretionaries. Again, going through your bank statement every month will give you a view of how much is going out, how much of that outgoing is 100% necessary for the house, like buying food, paying mortgage, paying for the heater and all of that, and how much of it is discretionary. With the discretionary things, can you reduce it a little bit? I'm not talking about starving yourself. I'm not talking about denying yourself. Everything in moderation, but know your total expenditure every month and try to build up an emergency fund that will cover that total expenditure 3 times. It can be more than that, it can be less than that, but the goal is to start building towards it. And that comes from your disposable income. The more disposable income you have, the more you can save. So choose a bank account that is suitable for your emergency fund. So this is a bank account that is not like investing. You're going to keep it in a bank account so you can have access to it when you need it. Instant access saving accounts are best for this purpose. Normally, they do not carry a charge for depositing and withdrawing money, but please do your research before committing to any contract. Don't sign anything unless you have read it. If you don't understand it, talk to somebody, call the bank or somebody who is using this same kind of account, then commit to it. The other thing that I found really helpful is setting up a direct debit from your current account into your saving account. So what it does is rounds up the pennies. Just let me admit this. Okay. Just give me a second. Somebody needs to be admitted. Okay. Okay, so what this direct debit does, it rounds up the penny. So for example, for anything that you buy, whether it's online or in store, if let's say you pay £3.50 for a coffee, it rounds it up to £4. £4 goes out of your account, but that 50p is going to go into that saving and it's going to build up. So for any direct debits that you pay, for any standing orders that you pay from your account, for anything that goes out of your account, it rounds it up and saves the penny. This is really good, especially if you have to budget for things, if you have to plan for things. It starts going up little by little. At the end of the month, you can put it back into your current account to help you with your expenditure, or you can use it to pay for your credit cards. If you're self-employed, you can use that facility during the year to save up towards a tax that you might have to pay at the end of the year through your self-assessment. So it's a really good option to have. Most banks have this facility. Just you can do it through your banking app or just do an inquiry online and they will tell you how to do it. The third thing that you need to do is to keep up with your debts, and that's really important. Payday loans, expensive credit cards, unsecured personal loans, overdrafts, these are really expensive and they take their toll on your bank account. Make sure that you deal with your debt before you start saving. It is really important. If you have debts that are piling up, that are overwhelming, you have to make a plan to get rid of those or reduce those before you start saving. So the thing I'm sure everybody knows, that make sure your repayments are manageable. Clear all your expensive debts and do not miss repayment on your debts. This will have a negative effect on your credit rating. Make sure you use consolidation options if it's available to you, or zero balance transfer options for your credit cards. Please be aware, just do your research, just make sure that credit card, these days, if you go on these websites, they all check you anyway, but please be aware that the extra checks might have a negative effect on your credit rating. And please be aware, using these facilities, using these services carries an extra cost. So normally, if you're going to consolidate your credit cards or use a zero balance transfer option, it will ask for an extra charge, and normally it's a percentage of the money that you're going to put on zero balance. So do your homework before you commit to anything. If you're struggling with your mortgage, please consider asking your mortgage lender about mortgage holidays or temporary interest-only payments. Please be aware, again, extra charges and penalties might apply for using these facilities. And remember that the debt, which is your mortgage, will remain, which needs to be dealt with at a later date. But if you're struggling, first thing you have to do is talk to your mortgage lender. And be aware that your mental health is a priority. I know from experience that when you are under pressure, when money is short, when there are so many things going around, your mental health is the first thing that suffers. And because you're a mom, you're a dad, you're in control, you're responsible for a family, you're always the last one to acknowledge that you are under pressure. There are help. You do not need to suffer in silence. You can reach out to people, you can talk to people. There are services available through citizen advice, money advice, and there is a charity called Step Change that can help you with your mental health and managing your debts. So after you have done these 3 steps of checking your finances and see what you can do, then we can start looking at planning for the future, for the family, and see where we are. This is where I come into play. So what does this chart tell you? So this is like different stage of life when you're 20, 30, 40, 50. What are the things that you should be considering, you should be having in place? Please remember, this is not that you have to have them, or if you don't have them, don't start to panic. This is what you should ideally be looking at. So I'm going to go through it all one by one and see where we are. So if you're a young adult in your 20s, you should start budgeting and saving, and you should towards your emergency fund. So building towards the emergency fund should start ideally as soon as you get your first permanent job that actually pays you regularly every month. So that, again, the saying is that from everything that you earn, you should save up to 10% of it each month. I know it is, most of the time it is not possible, but ideally that is the rule of saving. Anything you earn every month, up to 10% of it. It can be less than that, it can be more than that, but please try and put something away every month. That will go towards your emergency fund. And this budgeting and saving, you should carry it well through to retirement. The second thing is family protection. So late 20s, early 30s, can be a bit sooner than that, can be a bit later than that. That's where most people start thinking about buying their first house, start a family. So that is your biggest asset, your family and your house. They are the most precious things to you. Well, family comes first, but when you come to brick and mortar, it's the house. So you have to have a plan to protect your family, to protect your home. So if you have a mortgage protection should be a priority. Please think about things, especially this coronavirus has highlighted the need for protection. If anything happens to you, how are you going to manage your mortgage? If anything happens to you, how's your family going to deal with mortgage? What's going to happen? So these are the plans that you should be thinking about. You do not have to necessarily take the plan, but please talk to somebody to see your options. Most of the time, protection plans are a lot cheaper than you might think. But my advice to you is, even if you're going to go online and do it yourself, talk to somebody before. Make sure the plan is suitable for you. Make sure the plan is covering what is supposed to be covering. Don't go and do something online because it was the cheapest option. Remember, if it's the cheapest option, there is a reason for it. That is the cheapest option. The cheapest option might be the best option for you, but know what you are paying for. So the third one is
just adding on to that. Sorry, Naz. My friend's a mortgage advisor, and his father-in-law developed prostate cancer, and he's his life insurance policy wasn't one that my friend had set up, and he wasn't paid out on developing
Exactly.
prostate cancer,
Yeah.
because in that policy it was a surgical recovery, so he
Yes.
wouldn't get a payout on it. But on at least 4 other policies, he would have had a payout on having an illness that required surgery to correct.
Yeah.
So it is important to read that fine print and
Absolutely.
know when they
And
will
the problem, yeah, and the problem with most of these are that unless you start to pay for it, you do not see exactly what you're covered for. So that's why it pays to talk to somebody before you take the protection plan. Most of them are, well, not most of them, but there are plans that only cover, let's say, cancer when it's stage 1, which is the lowest and the cheapest stage. If it progresses to stage 2, stage 3, suddenly you realize that the protection that you have in place doesn't cover it. And that's the time that you need the money, because at stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 is the time that you can't work anymore. You have no income anymore. The other thing is that when you go online to get a protection for your mortgage, there are so many packages, which are the cheapest one. I had a client who had an extensive amount of mortgage outstanding. And we realized after talking to her that the protection plan that she had bought and she was paying for it for the last 7 years only covered 40,000 of her mortgage, 40,000 pounds of her mortgage. And her mortgage was well over 250,000 pounds. So within that 7 years, if anything had happened to her, she was only covered for 30,000 pounds, 40,000 pounds. And she didn't know that. When I asked her, why did you take this plan? Did anybody help you? She said, no, I went online. So, okay, but why did you? She said, oh, it was the cheapest one. She didn't realize that what she is buying, what is it covering? And the plan provider, they don't get in touch with you to ask you questions. So it's just talking to somebody before you take the plans. And remember, the difference between talking to somebody, to an advisor, whether it's a mortgage advisor or a financial advisor, to take a protection, and the one that you take online, the difference in premiums you pay is maximum to £3. So if you were to pay for a plan for £20 a month, if you talk to somebody and take that protection plan through an advisor, it will be £23. So it's not a massive difference. I know at times you think, oh, even £3 counts, but can you afford not to talk to somebody? Think about that side of it as well. Okay, so after you've done your protection, after you've thought about your protection, then we can move into saving and investments. So in your mid-30s, you can start thinking about a long-term investment plan for yourself and for your children. So this can be anything from a pension plan, an ISA plan, something to save towards your kids' education for university, helping them start buying their first car, helping them buying their first house. There are little things that you can start thinking ahead. So remember, even for your children, they are entitled to a pension. Don't think because they are kids and they are not working, they can't have a pension. Yes, they can. And that's a very good plan for them to have. You can help them to build towards their retirement. And in this day and age, I always tell people that is something you should be thinking about, because by the time they get to their retirement age, where would we be with state pension? Where would we be with government helping people? It's going to be less and less, because let's face it, we are borrowing more and more. We are in difficulties. The whole world is in difficulties. So these public services are going to be less and less. So the emphasis is for your protection, for your investment, for your pension. We as adults, as humans, we have to take responsibility, and that's what government is telling us. The emphasis on us as individuals to take responsibility to provide for ourselves. So that's one way of starting to help your kids. Again, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do it, but it's worth thinking about it. ask grandparents if they can, buy presents for birthday. Yes, it's lovely to give the child a present, but can it be something a little bit smaller and part of it go into a saving plan for them? You can have junior ISAs paying into that. Normally, by the time they graduate from high school, that has built up towards something. If your children have child trust fund, which was provided for them through when they were born by the government, I know that there aren't any around, but for the older kids, there are still some around. My daughter has it. Have a look into it. Is it doing what it's supposed? Do you know where it is? Do you know how much they've got? Do you know what's happening? What kind of funds they are invested in? The child trust funds are one of the things that you should pull it out, take it out, see where it is, talk to somebody, talk to an advisor. We can find out what kind of funds they are invested in and if that is a suitable thing for them. So junior ISAs also, there are tax advantages if you have an ISA plan either for yourself or for your kids. And remember, all of that comes from after you have built your emergency fund. If you do not have an emergency fund, it is not advisable for you to start saving into a long-term investment because you might need the money. So first build your emergency fund and then think about investing for a longer term. Moving to your early 40s, you should be thinking about retirement. That is, look, it's during your employment, whatever pensions that there was available to you through employment at the age of 40, if you have to start thinking, okay, where are they? How many have I got? Do I have any through the previous employers? Now it is compulsory for them to enroll you into the workplace pension scheme. So whether you like it or not, unless you opt out, you have a pension plan. Consolidate them, put them all together if it's suitable for you. Don't go online and suddenly consolidate all of your plans because there are some plans that have hidden benefits in it. If you move that plan, you will lose that benefit. There are charges involved. You might lose money. So please talk to somebody before you take the option of putting all your pensions together. But in general, it is a good idea to have them all together. It gives you a bigger fund. The interest that is reinvested back into your pension will be bigger and you will pay less annual management costs on different plans. So look into it and also start thinking about your retirement. How do you see yourself? What you want to do at retirement? What age do you want to retire? How much money do you think you will need at retirement? So how it goes for retirement planning is that we will sit down and we will have a chat. We establish what you already have in place. And remember, pensions aren't the only source of income for retirement. You might have a buy-to-let property. You might have inheritance coming to you. You might have a business that will, if you sell it, will provide you with a retirement fund. So there are so many other things that can help you through retirement. You might have other savings that will generate an income for you through retirement. So we will establish what you have in place and how much income that what you have is going to generate for you. And we will also establish where you want to be at retirement. Remember, what I tell people about retirement is the first priority is to have a secure and safe retirement. Make sure you have a roof over your head. Make sure you have food. Make sure you are taken care of. And then think about the luxury side of it. So have a realistic retirement plan. See what you have in place. See where you want to be and see what the gap is. And then we can start to make a plan to fill in that gap. It might not take you to your desired retirement plan, but it might meet you somewhere in the middle, which is better than nothing. Moving from that, so retirement planning carries on well through the 80s. Remember, once you retire, you have to make sure whatever you have in place to provide you with income carries you through your life. We should not be facing a scenario when you reach, let's say, the age of 70, you run out of money because let's say your pension pot you've taken it all out, it's gone. What you're going to do then? You can't work anymore, you've retired, you have to go back to work again. is it something you want to do? So you will have to make sure that whatever plan you're going to have through your retirement is a feasible one, and it's going to carry you for the rest of your life. So after you've done that, the late and your 50s, middle of 50s, it comes your estate planning, and that is what you should start thinking about, what you're going to leave for next generation, what you're going to leave for your children, what is coming to you actually from your own family, and if you have any inheritance coming to you. So we should start thinking about the tax implications of that. If you're going to pass anything to your children, are there any inheritance tax involved? How to plan for it? It's a big bill if you are facing that situation. Most people don't, because of the limits and the allowances they have. But if you go over that threshold, have you got a plan for it? But that comes later in life. So as I said at the beginning of this, please remember that these are the things that you should ideally be having. I know reality is a totally different picture, but it's worth thinking about it, and it's worth planning for it, just so you can provide a safer and a bit easier financial life for yourself. So talk to experts, seek professional advice, and make sure that whatever you are going to plan for, it's suited to your circumstances and to your needs. My details are here. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and my email and phone number. If anybody wants to get in touch, please do so. I'm more than happy to talk to you as many hours as it takes. As I said, there is no charge involved. I do not have billable hours. I don't have invoices. My charge and my fee will only come into place if you decide you want to take a plan, you want to do something, and that again, it will come into the picture once you have signed for it. So there are no obligations involved whatsoever. Don't think just because you talk to me, you have to do something. No, you don't have to, but at least know where you're standing and what you're doing. So yeah, that's my little bit of advice and lecturing for the day. I'm gonna stop sharing now.
I really enjoyed that. Elizabeth has said that what she's managed to catch so far has been really useful for her. Kate, have you got any questions at all? If you want to type them or speak. I have got a list of questions from beforehand, but one of the things that struck me while Kate's just mulling if she's got anything, quite often we have money hiding in supermarket shops, that because supermarkets don't just sell food, we might buy toys, we might buy magazines, we might buy toiletries, we might buy cleaning products and things like that. So when you were talking about the life audit, I was like, yeah, that supermarket shop hides a lot of discretionary shop as well. I know that if you are buying cleaning products, you might think that they're an essential item, but I've saved so much money by switching to Enyo for my cleaning, because now I don't buy any products, so I don't have that product purchasing in my my supermarket shopping. And I guess it's a little bit like poor man's shoes. Sometimes when we invest in things that are better quality, it seems like an expense, but because they last longer, you save more money that way as well.
It's just being savvy with it, to be honest. I used to, when the kids were younger, I used to go to different places. I know I would spend more on petrol to go to like 3-4 different shops to buy what I have to buy. But when you do the calculation, if they are relatively close to one another, it is manageable. But sometimes it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to what you're spending, what kind of supermarket you use, which one you go to, what kind of products you're buying. It is just, as you said, if it's a better quality, it will last you longer. Or sometimes we just, say from experience, I go to the supermarket and think, oh my God, first of all, during the lockdown, because we don't go places, I think supermarkets have become nirvana, going there, or just let me buy something just for the hell of buying something. It's one of those things. I went with my daughter the other day, and she insisted that she needs a pack of permanent markers, and I'm like, why? Why do you need it? Oh well, I'm bored. You know, that's from the kids' view, but I get to that as well. Oh well, I'm really bored. I haven't done any shopping this month. I'll go online and buy a shirt. Look, I'm not talking about starvation, as I said, with any other plan. If you're starving yourself, if you're denying yourself, it's worse. But just think in moderation and try to prioritize your needs, especially if the money is kind of tight and is short during this lockdown. There are so many families that are facing that situation. So it's worth just being savvy and thinking twice before you do anything.
Brilliant. So we've got one of the questions was around being in a good position to start looking at mortgages instead of renting. Again, it's cheaper to rent because you don't have to have a deposit. Then when you're in renting, it's more expensive because quite often rent is more than what a mortgage would be. And we find ourselves in this position where we're paying so much of our income in rent that we can't put the savings in to gather the 5, 10, 20% for a mortgage. So saving what we can means that we can jump out of that rent trap and into a mortgage trap. But even then, a mortgage trap means that if the boiler blows, it's your responsibility to fix it. If the roof goes, it's your responsibility to fix it. So pensions and LISAs is the next, and saving for children's education. So if someone works in the NHS, is it worth having an extra pension?
Look, it depends on your circumstances. First of all, can you afford it? I never tell people, oh, don't save for your retirement. But please, if the plan is not affordable for you, I do not advise you to take it. There is no point in me putting a pension plan for you in place. And 3 months down the line, you come back and say, Naz, I really can't afford it. I can't pay into it. Because remember, whatever investment you're making, even with your NHS pension, there is a cost involved. It doesn't matter where you take that investment plan. When you invest in the market, there is a cost involved. Even if it's the cheapest plan that you can find, there is a cost of investments. So unless you can commit to it long term, my advice is to think twice. That's why I keep telling people, first, build your emergency fund. Make sure that emergency fund carries you through for your short-term needs, and then go through the rest of it. Remember, when you think about your finances, think about 3 buckets. The first bucket is serving your day-to-day needs. It's for now. So it's for your monthly costs, expenditure, everything. So when that bucket reaches to a certain limit that covers all of that, it spills over to your second bucket. The second bucket is for your next 5 to 10 years. That can be any saving plan to meet the children's education, to buy a car, to buy a house, all of that. So that second bucket, when it reaches to a certain limit, I'm not saying full, to a certain limit that covers your needs. Remember, these buckets are tailored to your needs. They are your buckets. They are not a general bucket that the whole population uses. So when it reaches to a limit that covers you for the next 5 to 10 years, spills over to your third bucket, which is more than 10 years needs. That can be your retirement planning, that can be your estate planning, that can be going for a lifetime holiday, that can be anything that you are planning to have in the next, let's say, 12, 15, 20 years. So it's just one bucket to the other bucket. If we do not take care of the first bucket, there is no point of seeing to the other two. If you can't deal with your emergency fund, if you can deal with your expenses every month, what's the point of saving into an ISA if you have to take the money out? You lose money. The same thing goes with your license. Remember, when you put money into your ISA, you can't take it out unless you want to buy a house. If you take it out, the bonus that the government has paid to your account, you have to pay it back. So it's going to be really expensive. If you do not use your ISA to buy a house, you can access the money in it when you get to your retirement. You can't access it beforehand unless you pay the bonuses back. So for retirement, actually, it's a good thing because it will provide you, and because it's an ISA, it will provide you an income which is tax-free. You don't pay any tax on that money that you take out. But ISA's kind of limiting. You can do £4,000 a year, not more than that. But again, any plan is better than no plan. If it's something that is suitable to you, take it up. If you can afford it, take it up. Do your research, talk to somebody, make sure you are making an educated decision, not just because, oh, it's a lot on TV or they are advertising it every day or this guy came and talked about it. Read for yourself, look for yourself, make sure it is something that you can afford and it is something that you need.
I guess the same comes in with overpaying on your mortgage as well. So if you read the fine print, there's like sometimes there's a 10% limit that you can overpay on your mortgage, and that can bring down the years of your mortgage quite considerably. I'm lucky in one of my mortgages is no penalties, so I could pay it off tomorrow with no penalty. I can't afford to pay it off tomorrow, but every now and again I just keep putting a little chunk extra in to take some of the months off that mortgage. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because we've got no interest at the moment because of coronavirus. So getting mortgages is really cheap, but then we've got to think that the interest rate could go up, and where would you be if that happened? So for some people, investing in a second property right now might be a really good idea, but there's like no stamp duty and things like that. But then if you're investing it in other ways, what other ways is there to invest where you're not guaranteed a return, but it could be better for you than a mortgage, a safer purchase than a mortgage where you've got all that house upkeep to keep up to?
Look, all of that, again, it depends on your personal circumstances, something that is suitable for you, for your circumstances and what's happening around you, whether it's through tax planning or anything else, is not suitable for me. We are two different people. We have two different lifestyles. There are two different rules when it comes to finances that apply to us. So again, it's all based on if buying a second property is a suitable plan for you, if it's affordable for you, if after taking everything into account, you still think, okay, no, that's the right plan for me, by all means, go for it. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to do that? But for some people, buying a property is not, as you said, their cup of tea. So it just depends what is best option for you. And remember, taking a mortgage at the moment, yes, it's cheaper, but it's a lot more difficult because of all the little bits and pieces that they have put in. So it is not as easy as it looks that, okay, no, we are not paying any interest, let's go and get a mortgage. Mortgage lenders at the moment, they are making it more and more difficult because, look, they have to have checks in place as well. So it's just checking, seeing what is available to you. Can you afford to have a second mortgage? Would it be better to have a second house or an investment of some sort? Again, comes to your personal circumstances and what your vision, what your objectives are for future.
Yeah. So I'll go back to my questions. Brilliant. So we've cleared our backlog of questions, and you're available for questions as well. We've given your contact details. So we don't have any other questions come in. Can you pop your slide up again, just so that we've got the contact details again? You are really easy to find on Facebook.
So you can text me and then I'll send you the information how we can sit down, have a chat and see what you want to do, where you are, what the plan is, and is there anything. Look, there are sometimes people come to me and basically there is nothing I can do for them. It's not that there's always something. I never say, oh, come to me and I will make you rich. This is, if I could make anybody rich, I would have made myself rich. But it's just having a plan. It's just knowing if you're a mom at home, you can still pay into a mortgage if you can afford, to a pension if you can afford it. That is something that I never did when I was having the kids at home. When I was a young mom looking after 2 kids, always thought, oh, because I'm not working, I can't have any saving plans. Yes, you can. But the thing is, yeah, you save money in the bank because, okay, this month you have a little bit of extra, you can save it in the bank. The month later you go take it out, oh, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. But if you have thought about things properly, if you have thought things through, maybe some of it you would have put in a long-term investment to provide for you at a later life. It's just knowing those little bits and pieces that what you can do, what are the options available to you, especially if you're at home and not working. That is one of the things that I am really keen on, is financial education for yourself, for your kids. You have young kids at home, teach them about money, talk to them about money, not necessarily to worry them, not to say that, oh, money is short or we don't have it. Tell them where it's coming from. If you are working, what happens when you work? What do you do with money? What are the things that you pay for? You pay for electricity. My daughter was shocked a few years ago when I told her that we pay for electricity, because she thought, okay, electricity is just there. We flip the switch and it's there. But look, if I don't pay for it, it's not going to be there. It's just little things like that. Tell your kids, dinner is on you tonight. Give them £20.
We talk about oh, well, if we were going to go out for that restaurant meal, then that means that Daddy would have to work for X amount of hours. And do you think it's fair that we spend all that money on that restaurant meal when we could spend this amount of hours from Daddy's wage on this? So we turn it into hours at work for my little boy. Just so that he's got that understanding that, you know, the chili con carne that we put on the table might have cost £4 to feed us all, but going out for a restaurant meal where they invariably ask for sausage and chips and don't eat it, that might have cost us £60. So it's just sort of showing that contrast. And we never say, oh, we're poor. We talk about making choices with our money.
Exactly.
Choose where to spend it. Yes, we can afford to go out and pay for that, but we're choosing to spend our money in a different way. I think growing up with a poor mindset, it kind of puts you on a back foot as well, doesn't it?
It does.
Whereas if you grow up with I'm making choices, it might be that I'm making choices just to survive. But
it's your choice.
Yeah.
You made the decision for it. I mean, gave my daughter, I think it was just before the lockdown and everything, I said, look, dinner is on you tonight. And she was 14 at the time. This is £20. What can you do with it? Took her to the shop. Okay, you decide, Google the recipe, decide what ingredients you need, and this is £20 for it. Can we afford to eat that food with £20? So it's just making them aware of their choices, of their options, of what they have to think about when you go into the real world. When you tell them, oh, you pay for the water, but you also pay for the sewage, for the water that goes out. Think, when you're brushing your teeth, is it not better to just close the tap? If you're coming out of the room, is it not better just turn the light off? If you're going to sleep, is it not better just to check to see if there is any extra lights are on? I'm not again talking about worrying them or denying them of anything. Is, as you said, giving them choices to decide for themselves. And that helps them with schoolwork, that helps them with using their brain to think about extra things that comes their way. It's just giving them that knowledge that this is where the money comes from, this is what we do with it, and this is where it goes. So it is, as you said, their choices.
My son struggles with real money versus card money. And he got £2 from the tooth fairy, and I said, he's like, I want to go and spend it, I want to go and spend it. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And we agreed on getting him some chips from McDonald's drive-through. So of course I paid for that on my card, and I took the money off him and I put it in my car as like emergency £2 hanging around somewhere. And he found it and he was like, this is mine from the tooth fairy. I went, yeah, but you gave me that £2 to pay for the chips that you wanted, and that was a nice treat that you gave you and your sister with the money from the tooth fairy. Yeah, but it's here. I was like, yeah, use my money, my card for that. This is now my money because I spent your money on my card. And trying to get him to understand that, he's like, no, it's mine, look, it's mine.
Yeah, I know. It's just the other thing is that I keep telling my daughter is, just because you have some money doesn't mean you have to spend it. Again, yes, it's your money, but if you have £10 in your account at the moment, she had the Go Henry card, I just switched her into a NatWest account, so it's less cost. Go Henry charges me every month that I pay her allowance. I thought, okay, why am I paying that? I just go, it's good for her to have a proper bank account as well for her own history and credit rating and everything. The younger they have a bank account, the better. So we switched and all that, and then transferred her money. I said, oh, Mom, I've got £35. I'm going to buy it. So look, yeah, all fine. It's your money. It's your choice. But just because you have £35 doesn't mean you have to spend £35. Break it into little pieces. Maybe spend £10 this month, £10 next month. It's just giving them the option. Yes, you can spend it, but you also have the option of saving a little bit of it. I'm not saying all of it. Again, I'm not talking about denying them or starving them of anything, but you can have a little bit and spend the rest, have a little bit and spend the rest. And it comes again, like anything that you earn, maybe you should save a little bit of it, maybe 10% of it, 5% of it, just build it towards, and that can help a lot in the future.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to end the recording here, so if anyone has any questions, please get in touch with Naz. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing where we can get some savings going, because it's really important for our family to make steps towards the future. Thank you, Naz.
Pleasure. I just